Who is Hezbollah? So they run these illicit activities and they have a very clear agenda to destabilize the region. They're a militant group. You can think of them as a militia. They're labeled as a terrorist organization. They operate as a state within a state. They hold land in southern Lebanon in opposition to the Lebanese government. And they have hubs throughout the world because that's how they fuel their operations. Hezbollah has carried out direct attacks on the US through attacking its embassy in the 80s in Beirut. So Hezbollah is a militant arm, a proxy of Iran that shares ideological interests with Iran to see Islam controlling the Middle East and beyond. In order to fund their activities, they're kind of like a mafia. You know how the mafia fuels their activities through drug trade and extortion and things like that, money laundering. So Hezbollah does that in South America, in Africa, and other places. And so in addition to getting money from Iran, which they can't be fully dependent on, they have to have their own ways of making money, their own ways of funding the work that they do, which is military in nature, but they also do a lot of social programs, specifically in southern Lebanon, where they're trying to present themselves as the caretaker of the Islamic people there. They run hospitals, they have social programs, etc. So they have this really strong military ideological agenda, but a part of that, but they are also trying to prove themselves as the caretakers of their own people. And that's what they need to fund. They have a direct need here. And they utilize South America, and specifically Venezuela, because Maduro has been very favorable to the cartels, allegedly. But it's pretty clear that he's doing that. So Hezbollah has a very strong presence in South America and has been working with the cartels. Again, think about it like mafia. You have all these illicit operations that are running. Hezbollah has military force. They're willing to do things that typical governments are not willing to do. They have a lot in common with the cartels, and they can work together because they're operating in this black market and doing illegal activity. So they end up collaborating with the cartels a lot. And you can find this is in the Security and Defense Quarterly, which is a peer-reviewed, I think it comes out of Poland, institution that studies these type of issues. Hezbollah is what I'm talking about here specifically, their activities in Venezuela. So these activities are happening in South America. They have been happening through different Hezbollah posts in South America, specifically in Venezuela and on the border with Colombia, where a lot of cartel activity happens. So they run these illicit activities and they have a very clear agenda. Look, one of the key words here is destabilization. Let's take a look at that. One of the tools of these powers that are opposing the powers that be, the systems that rule the world, are to destabilize them, to bring destabilization. So a lot of this subversive activity, criminal activity, functions in that way. Drug trafficking, since this has become the source of the greatest funding for these two groups, both to acquire weapons and keep their armed cells active, to finance their political causes and buy hearts and minds in the elections of each country. This is huge. The DEA has extensively reported on this and opened up departments to address this. There's Project Cassandra. Yes, this effort is part of the DEA's Project Cassandra, which targets the global Hezbollah network responsible for the movement of large quantities of cocaine in the United States and Europe. So the DEA has a whole task force dedicated to this, a whole project dedicated to this, to these efforts. This is throughout all of South America, but Venezuela is a central hub for a lot of this activity. And then just one more source, just to demonstrate that this is a global issue. It goes beyond U.S. interests. This is France 24. They tend to have a center-left leaning and represent France's interests specifically. And they're reporting on this. With Maduro gone, the U.S. looks to drive Hezbollah out of Venezuela. So they're reporting on the U.S.'s intention to do this, but what they're doing is confirming that Hezbollah is heavily operating in Venezuela. But in spite of Hezbollah's influence and in spite of their power and strength, they are a small part of this bigger story, which all brings us to this agreement that was signed between China, Russia, and Iran. It explicitly combines the three powers in a coordinated framework, aligning them on issues ranging from nuclear sovereignty and economic cooperation to military coordination and diplomatic strategy. So I break down the significance of this trilateral agreement in a separate video that you can see here. And if you like this type of content, if you want to see more, you can subscribe to my channel. I'll include a link here now and check out some of my other videos, and I'll be making more as we go.